Hello and welcome to a special pre-fake E3 edition of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. Yeah, we were just talking before the podcast about it, and it's crazy to me that it's already June as we record this. And so I was like seeing all these articles in my Google feed about, E3 or fake E3 stuff, and I was like, it's not time for that yet, but I guess it is. And
it is, and it already sort of has begun. I don't know why Sony felt the need to have their state of play this past week instead of joining in the fun of next week, but they decided to, I guess, be in a different news cycle, which whatever, but we'll have their state of play to talk about. But there's some other news as well.
That makes me wonder a little bit, without getting into anything that was actually in the state of play. Does this feel like an E3 press conference, that what they showed, or does it seem smaller?
The one thing that felt like an E3 press conference was Concord, which was a totally new IP with an extended story cinematic and like an extended gameplay walkthrough. Everything else just sort of felt like boilerplate, like state of play, this is what's happening this week at Sony type of thing. But no, it was very small. It was, maybe the reason they did it this week instead of next week was because they didn't have a ton to show.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know. But, it did seem small for what we normally consider like an E3 showcase of some sort. But,
yeah.
So I don't know if they have anything additional planned, and this was just sort of an appetizer type of thing, but I don't know. It seemed small to be considered their E3 or summer game showcase thing. So I guess we'll find out.
That probably is why they did it this week, so they wouldn't be in the conversation. Because the past couple of years, Xbox has blown it out of the water with their press conferences. Like Microsoft is killing it press conference wise. So I could see them wanting to distance them, like still be sort of in the conversation, but not be a direct competitor. There are still probably going to be articles that come out like comparing this state of play with the Microsoft press conference, and probably Microsoft will become victorious in that, but I don't know. They could have waited a couple days is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it was a strange thing. Also, I don't remember if we knew that this was coming or if this was sort of a sudden drop.
No, it was a sudden drop. They announced it the day before. They pulled a Nintendo, which, by the way, I don't think there's been a direct announcement. They've said there's going to be a June direct, but we haven't gotten a date. They usually do that same thing where it's a day before, so we might get a direct this week, prior to the Game Award, or not the Game Awards, Summer Games Fest, or it might be next week. We don't know.
I sort of don't know what they would show, given that Switch 2 isn't happening this year, and I don't know what they have lined up for the fall.
I'll be curious. They have said they are going to have a June direct, but it won't be. Yeah, it's not going to be related to the Switch 2. So without that news, I really don't know what they have on the docket. Especially with them confirming that Switch 2 exists, like, I don't know what they're going to, like, if they're still going to be they want people to still buy Switches right up until Switch 2 becomes available. So I don't know.
Yeah, they're in a weird spot, I think. So it'll be interesting to see what they have to show if they do a June direct. But
let's get into some news.
Yeah, let's get into some news. So Sony is reportedly developing a PlayStation mobile platform, which was discovered because there are like new job listings showing that they're working on the new platform, developing, publishing, and operating free-to-play mobile games, which doesn't sound ideal to me, but I know there was like a bunch of reports about how they were like, they got Bungie on board and they were really trying to like push multiplayer games. But I think a part of that was also that they were trying to like ramp up their ability to make mobile stuff. And I know Microsoft, like they bought King as a part of that big Activision Blizzard purchase. Yeah. And so they kind of want to do the same thing. So maybe this is just them like preparing and being like, yeah, we're going to have to compete on that platform as well. So I don't think there was anything in particular interesting to come out of this, more just that they don't really have a presence on mobile much, and now they're trying to sort of develop that a little bit. So
it's interesting. You have those like weird little Final Fantasy games. I guess that's not really Sony. That's more Square. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what comes of this.
Yeah, I'm not like hot on mobile stuff, so it
Nor
doesn't
am I, yeah.
super interest me. But I know that's going to be like sort of an upcoming battleground for Microsoft and PlayStation. So curious if Nintendo gets involved more in that. I know they tried for a while to make like mobile stuff, and it just like didn't really happen for them.
That was a wild time because we had Mario Run. Was that what that was called?
Yeah, it was like Super Mario Run or something.
Which was fine, and I actually played a good deal of that until it started having to cost me money. But
I did as well.
They did a Mario Kart one that I don't think anybody checked out, though.
I think that's still going. It's just like I don't know who plays it. I'm sure somebody does, but it's weird because like a lot of the new tracks that they were adding to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on Switch were like from the mobile game. So,
which this is a little bit of a tangent, but I did a little while ago. We purchased all of those extra tracks that have been being released for Mario Kart 8. And they're all a joy to play. It's a great little game. It has so much content in it. It
is great. I do like that. I wish I had more reason to play it, but
yeah. There's not really after you like get gold and all of the things in the easy mode. It's like, I mean, I guess it's somewhat satisfying to get better at it and play the hard mode, but I found the easy mode to be the most fun way to play.
Yeah, and like the online offering with that just isn't very robust. Like there's not really that incentive for like, one more race. It's just kind of like you could be doing this online or offline. It doesn't really matter.
I wonder if, surely the Switch 2 will, I guess there's nothing defined about it, but you would have to imagine that they see the benefit of like increasing the ability to play online with others. I wonder if there will be a way to actually talk to people through the Switch 2, because famously with the Switch you have to like use a mobile app on your phone.
I do wish that whatever the Switch 2 like officially ends up being, a big part of that is like a push for like online stuff and making not just like the ability to chat in a similar way that you can on PlayStation and Xbox, but also just like what games they have that have online content, just building that out and making it more robust and interesting. And
that'd be cool.
You would think they would have incentive to do that because they want people subscribing to their online service. So I guess we'll find out. So speaking of showcases, Xbox sort of announced just this last week, I think, that they're going to do their game showcase on Sunday, June 9th, with a showcase to follow right after that will show off Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is the next Call of Duty game coming this fall. It'll be the first one that'll be on Game Pass. I think that was also confirmed.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
So I will definitely tune in and check this out for sure.
I think this is a good model. I think we talked about this previously, but the Xbox way of doing this, they've done it, I guess, last year and this year, and I hope it's a trend that continues, where they have their main press conference, and then right after that, they have a showcase with like their most anticipated, or like a highly anticipated game. Because they did it with Starfield last year, where the whole showcase could just be its own thing of like interesting surprises and things like that. And then immediately following that, you just have a dedicated hour of like, this is our new thing. Here's a deep dive, which I think is a good way to do it, because I think they have probably a lot to show with this Call of Duty, and now it's not going to take up time in the main showcase. You can just like watch immediately afterward. So I'm excited to. I'm not really a Call of Duty guy, but I will definitely watch this because I'm interested to see. I mean, they always look crazy. Like the graphics on them are always like super high def. So
I like the idea that it's coming to Game Pass, because I'm the sort of person that would maybe drop in for like a week or two and check it out, but then I would fall off of it relatively quickly. So it's not really like, from a value standpoint, worth my $70 to pick up an actual Black Ops game and then on top of it pay for like the Xbox Live or PlayStation Network to be able to play it. So like just to, do a 1 month sub for Game Pass and be able to check it out, and like get my fill of it and then be done with it is about right to me. But
is this going to be in that weird launcher that we experienced? Is this part of that?
Oh gosh, yeah, probably. Unfortunately,
to download everything.
Yeah, I'm sure you have to download all of Call of Duty just to be able to access this.
We're not really in like the Destiny sphere right now, although I have been watching some videos about the final shape. I saw an article that said the preload for the PC version of the final shape is 300 gigabytes.
Oof, jeez.
Isn't that crazy?
That is insane. That'll take all day.
Yeah, it's wild.
Man, that is crazy. But no, I think I get this whole like doing an additional showcase after the main Xbox showcase because they've bought so many different studios that used to have their own separate showcase. Like Call of Duty used to do their own like basically hour-long deep dive showcase before they were bought by Microsoft.
True.
And like Bethesda used to do the same thing.
Also
so
true.
Like I don't know, just rolling them into the main Xbox showcase and getting like 2 to 5 minutes instead of like a full hour, I think people would be disappointed by that. So just like, I don't know, stack them up one showcase after the next and just keep doing it.
Well, not to skip ahead, but speaking of rolling Bethesda into the main press conference, there was a leak, which we don't have to talk about if you don't want to get spoiled, but there were some articles about the next Doom game being revealed during the Microsoft press conference.
I'm interested in that. Yeah, I don't care about spoilers in that regard, but I guess if you are, you can skip forward.
Skip ahead. They say it's called Doom: The Dark Ages, and it's going to have a medieval theme.
Oh, interesting.
Which it's interesting to me. I mean, Doom Eternal, you definitely went to like the Sentinel planet or whatever. I actually don't really remember the plot of that game, but there were definitely some places where it was like, you know, big stone castles you were running around in. So I don't really know where this is going to fit. I mean, they have an extended canon they've been building out with Doom and Doom Eternal and the DLCs for that. And that story seems to sort of have concluded. You killed like the icon of sin and stuff. I watched a while ago, I watched like a story thing about it because I didn't want to play the DLC. But I don't know if this is going to be a prequel, but it is going to be they say it's going to be revealed at this Microsoft press conference. Doom: The Dark Age. Or Dark Ages? It's one or the other. Medieval setting. I don't know if there's any other interesting... Or I'm sorry, medieval-inspired Doom world. So maybe it's in a different universe, not related to the canon. But what do you think about this? Did you ever play Doom Eternal? I liked that game.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I didn't play the DLC, but I liked the base game quite a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm interested. I would definitely play whatever the next Doom game ends up being, but who knows how far off it is.
There was that internal leak last year that revealed a bunch of stuff, and there was a Doom title in that, but the code name for it was Doom Year Zero. So I think this is now Doom: The Dark Ages is now what Doom Year Zero was, and I wonder if it'll be set in the past of because like Doom Eternal, you learn a lot about like the Doom Marine or the Doom guy was part of like an ancient race of called, I think where they're called the Sentinels. I don't remember, but they had like a storied history of being this like elite alien race or whatever of people who were just like punching people a lot. And so I wonder if that it takes place back in the past, or if it's like maybe it's when you became, because the Doom 2016, you wake up because you've been imprisoned for a super long time, and all the demons are afraid of you. Like, don't wake up the Doom guy. So I wonder if this is like a prequel to that, and you are at the end of this game, you'll get into your coffin and like sleep for a while to eventually wake up on Mars or whatever. But yeah, I'm pro more Doom. I'm excited for this, and it'll come to Game Pass since it's Bethesda. So I'm excited about that.
True.
Too.
Yeah. So the report here is claiming that this is going to be at the Summer Games Fest showcase for Xbox.
Yeah, it'll be the Sunday thing. It'll be the same thing. It'll be like the Microsoft press conference on the 9th. I don't think it's going to be a Keighley's thing.
Cool. A little bit of new No Man's Sky stuff.
I saw this.
Yeah, they dropped a new game mode called Adrift, which basically sort of strips everybody out of the game, all the life forms, and you're just sort of left to survive alone. I think there's a new expedition that came with this that's supposed to sort of get you to go through this new mode. I do like their expeditions. It's been a while since I've played No Man's Sky, but when I saw this drop, I was like, ooh, maybe I should drop back in and play some of this, but haven't gotten around to it yet. But between this and I think the previous update, which was called Orbital, where they added like ship customization and stuff like that, there's like some cool stuff in there that I would definitely like to check out. I feel like, they're doing enough updates for this game that there's like so much stuff to like experience and find if you've not been in the game for a while. So yeah,
it's on Game Pass.
It is on Game Pass for sure, and it does run like really well on Steam Deck, I have found. So
you think we'll see anything about their new game they revealed last year, that crazy one world game where you can be like a rabbit guy?
I hope so. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what that was called, but
I also don't remember. It was something similar to No Man's Sky. It was like a 3-word thing. But yeah, I don't remember what it was called.
Light No Fire.
Light No Fire. Yes, you're right. I actually am very excited about that, and I would jump into that day one because they have this proven track record of just like continuing to support a game for years, and that one looks very cool to me.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try it out, whatever it is, whatever it ends up being, because I was there for day one of No Man's Sky, and yeah, it was not great, but it since then has become like almost an entirely different game, and it's very good. So even if it like sort of disappoints out of the gate, you sort of have that memory of I was there day one when it was bad, and now look at it.
Well, should we dive into this state of play?
Yeah, so they sort of had your core tenet of a showcase where you're not quite sure what the thing is, and it is Concord, which is sort of an Overwatch-like game inspired by Guardians of the Galaxy, seemingly.
Yeah, heavily inspired by Guardians of the Galaxy. 5v5, character-driven. It seems almost like an extraction type of thing, like kind of the finals type of deal where you're both trying to catch an objective and like bring it somewhere. It's confusing to me. It seems like there's like a computer pad everybody's trying to grab, but maybe there will be other game modes where you're like moving a payload. But how did this look to you? I was impressed with this trailer, like the quality of they claim it was captured in engine. But they had an extended cinematic where you saw like a team and then another team facing them, and then they had some gameplay, and then there was another cinematic at the end where they were talking about like on their ship. But what was your vibe on this? There's a beta coming up. Yeah,
there's a beta coming in July, and then the full game is supposed to launch later in August. So this is like coming fairly soon,
fast,
this summer. I don't know. Like, I wonder how many of these sort of Overwatch, Valorant style games can exist at once and still be successful. Like the big question is, will this be the new Overwatch or will this be the new Lawbreakers? Like it can go either way, and I almost can never tell what it's going to be. It's safe to assume lean on the Lawbreaker side of anything over another one hitting and being, good and having consistent support over time.
They had a direct competitor in this showcase.
Yeah,
I feel like
that was the other weird part.
Is another similar thing, which I think has more mass appeal because it's known IP, and they're like, oh, now Venom is going to be in it, which people love Venom. I think they revealed one more character who I don't remember.
Now, is that game like a PlayStation developed game that's going to be on like PS5 and PC, or is that just like an Overwatch that's going to be on everything and they just for whatever reason showed it in this showcase?
I don't know. I feel like I've only heard about it from Sony.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they have some sort of exclusivity as far as consoles, but I mean, it's a game that I feel like would do well on all platforms. Like it's like an Overwatch where you want it to be on everything.
Yeah. Well,
But
and there was like years ago that report about how they were planning like I don't remember the number that they gave, but a bunch of like multiplayer game as service games, and that was one of the big reasons they bought Bungie, was to help them with that. And I feel like this showcase was just kind of that, coming home to roost, so to speak, where you've got Concord and Marvel Rivals in the same showcase, and you're like, can these really exist side by side on top of all the other sort of multiplayer game as service games?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's such a flip of the coin whether this is gonna, be a, Helldivers, or if this is gonna be, what was that?
What was that one
Stars?
where I always think about that game that was big for a little bit, but then it dropped off. It was where like you were 3 hunters and another person was a monster.
Oh yeah, what was that? Evolve or something like that?
Evolve, yes. Yeah, that I don't know, the games where you have to work together in like a 5v5 or something like that, where I mean, one of the reasons I kind of bounced off of Overwatch was I would play a couple matches and everybody was kind of just doing their own thing, but the other team was clearly all working together and like on a Discord call. And I feel like these games thrive when you have like a community you can play them with. And I don't know, sometimes if that community doesn't, like, I feel like Marvel Rivals is more likely to have that because more people are into Marvel stuff. Yeah. So this one has, it doesn't have a running start, I guess is what I'm saying. It's going to have to achieve, at least initially, to get that community. But I guess we'll see. This is not something I was super interested in, but I would maybe watch someone play this. I don't think it's ever going to be like a competitive game.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how it does at launch. I don't know. Like, I will probably watch it first just to see how it goes. Yeah. I don't think it's supposed to be free to play either. I think they're doing the Overwatch thing where they launch and you have to buy in. And then, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the trailer towards the end has like something about pre-ordering.
You might be right.
Which is not what you would say if it was a free-to-play game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this game. Is Marvel Rivals going to be free-to-play?
I would bet so. If it isn't, I would be surprised. Because, like, I think Marvel gets the free-to-play model. Like, they had Marvel Snap that did very well for them. And with Marvel games, you have such an opportunity to give people like different skins and whatnot. So I don't know. It's a good question. I could see them doing that thing that has been fashionable these days, where initially you have to pay for it, and then they realize they quote unquote realize it should be free to play, and so it then goes free to play. So they get that initial money bump of people who bought it, and then like a couple months later, they're just like, actually, it's free to play anymore. So here you go. I feel like that happened with something else recently. But I'll be curious to see. If this comes to Xbox, I will download it.
Well, if this is being developed by PlayStation, I feel like it will not.
No, you're probably right.
Because right now they're talking about additions for PS5 and PC are going to be sort of revealed next week as we record this. But interesting that they have like really sort of with this one doubled down on like the storytelling aspect of it, which I don't. It's so weird to have like, characters and storytelling be a part of it, but then to just be like another multiplayer shooter. Like I know Overwatch and to an extent Apex Legends have done that. But
that's something we haven't talked about. Is a thing they said in the trailer was for Concord, log in every week to see like a little cinematic to like progress stories and see where like the characters are at. So you're right. They're looking to do this evolving narrative thing where every week you log in and there's like new story content.
Yeah, I wonder if that's a little bit sort of the Helldivers thing, but instead of a co-op shooter, this is a multiplayer shooter where they're trying to like weave in story to try to keep you hooked on it and coming back week after week in case like the multiplayer like game modes are not enough for that. They're just sort of trying to add icing to the cake a little bit, but yeah, I don't know about this. It'll be something that I will sort of watch from afar, but I don't know if I'm going to partake in it, especially if I would have to buy it to get in. But if it becomes another Helldivers, then maybe I'll check it out. I guess we'll see. I'm in a very wait and see sort of pattern with this. So,
well, something you don't have to wait and see because we both already played it. God of War Ragnarok is coming to PC.
Yeah, so they showed this off, and the big thing was it's like uncapped frame rates. I think is, and I think you could tell just watching the trailer that it appeared to be running at a higher frame rate than I remember being used to as I played through it. So, I guess cool that more PlayStation games are coming to PC for people who play games there. And then they had like a slew of games here that didn't really interest me all that much. But the Dynasty Warriors, I feel like this game looked all right, but it's like that style of game I think is fun in short bursts, but they always last way too long for me. So I just kind of am out. And then Infinity Nikki, I have no recollection of what this game is.
This is that one where it's like open world. I almost was like, oh, is this Dokkaev? But it was not. It's like an open world game, I think, where you're like some sort of fashion person, or it seems focused on taking pictures, and you maybe have like Pokemon, possibly.
They were all like cat creatures, though, right? It was like
it was all cat, and you can maybe also turn into a cat creature. It was unclear to me.
I don't understand this game.
I mean, it seemed fine. If it, I could see this maybe blowing up if it's like super weird to play. Like if you play it in just like a bunch of insane, like a kind of a Dokkaev thing where you're playing it, you're just like, what's happening now? I would be interested to see someone play this, but I probably will not check it out.
Yeah,
unless it's really crazy.
And then there was a Ballad of Antara, which I don't remember this one as well. I
also don't remember this one.
Sort of, it almost looked vaguely Souls-like, where they were trying to have like crazy looking creatures, and it was sort of like an action RPG type of a thing, maybe.
I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I have no memory of this. And I watched this press conference not long ago, within the last 24 hours.
All right, well then moving on to Marvel Rivals. I know you've been expressed interest in this, so how were you after seeing this?
I'm still interested. I think I want to check this out. I don't want to buy it though. So if it's a free to play thing, that's interesting to me. And if it comes to Xbox, like I said, I would check this out if it's free on Xbox, but I don't know if I would play this on PC. I've kind of migrated to not playing shooters on PC. I've been more of a controller guy. So especially like Twitch shooters, I feel like it's easier to be on a level playing field if you're playing on console, on controller. But I am interested in this, and I want to see someone play it a bunch, and I want to like learn about all the characters' powers and whatnot.
Okay, doing a quick Google search, I have come across the information that this is a free-to-play 6v6 PvP game with 19 available characters at launch, coming to PlayStation 5 and Xbox. So you will be able to check this out.
I will be downloading this and checking it out. I will report back in July. A beta is coming. I'm not going to sign for the beta. I'll report back when it releases.
Yeah, there's a closed beta coming to PC and PS5 in July. And did they say when this is actually launching?
I don't think so. They said the whole point of this trailer was that Venom and someone else who I don't remember are joining the fight.
Okay, so they just revealed some new characters, basically.
Yeah. And it seems like they're going to reveal even more before the release. Like, they had a roster. There were some like people in shadow during the initial launch trailer, and I think we've only seen some of those. So it's going to be sort of a Smash Brothers type of thing, where we're constantly getting more people. Or I guess Overwatch type of thing. Although I feel like Overwatch really dragged creating new characters. Like, you guys want to use
slowed down the pace quite a bit.
Now, what did you think about this Until Dawn?
Not interested at all, basically.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not really a survival horror person, so when they had this and Silent Hill 2, I was just like, what? Let's get to the next thing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really into it. What about Path of Exile 2? Free-to-play RPG, early access, late 2024.
Now, I've heard good things about these games. And
it's like a Diablo-like.
Yeah, it's a Diablo-like ARPG, and from what I understand, a little bit more in the vein of Diablo 2, which is the one everyone likes.
Interesting.
And it is going to be, I believe it said free-to-play, and coming in early access late 2024 to PlayStation 5. I assume this will be out on other platforms as well, but they only said PS5, but because it's a PlayStation showcase, but for sure this will be on PC. But I think it because it's free to play, that's like maybe the only chance it has at me actually downloading it and giving it a shot. But we'll see where I'm at in late 2024. So and then PSVR 2 stuff. They had a game called, I think the studio's name is Skydance, and then they actually put the name of the studio in the title, and it's called Skydance's Behemoth. What did you think of this?
It was fine. I will say the thing that was more interesting to me is the next thing, because I feel like Alien is just like the perfect VR title, because you're always in a spaceship, so you never have to see like a big skybox, and it's not necessarily going to be open world. But the main thing about it is that you always have the motion detector, which I feel like is such a good... I played a little bit of Alien Isolation, but I had to stop playing it because it was too scary. Mm-hmm. This will be like even scarier. Like the fact that you can pull up your right hand or however you do it, and there's the motion detector, and you have like just like an alien wandering around. That's going to be like so effective. I don't usually watch people playing VR games on like Twitch or whatever, but I would love to watch someone play this. I will never play it because it's going to be too scary. But I feel like this Alien is the perfect game to be in VR.
Yeah, that's where I was at with Alien Isolation. It was not a game I wanted to play, but it was fun to watch other people play it.
Yeah.
You get that sort of level of separation where you're like, it's not happening to me, so it's like more fun to watch. I could see that being the case with this as well. If somebody were to like do a playthrough on YouTube or something, but I was interested in the next thing outside of PlayStation VR 2 stuff. I think those were the only two ones they had, but this next one was called Where Winds Meet, and it looks like sort of a kind of a Souls-like inspired game, but it's like an open world action RPG set in Chinese mythology, as opposed to, we get a lot of these with like, Japanese mythology, but this one's Chinese mythology. And I mean, a lot of it was sort of cinematic, but I thought it looked cool.
Yeah, I was interested in this. I would check this out if I had a PlayStation 5, but I do not. So, but I am interested in this a lot.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen a lot of these, and I feel like we're also waiting on a lot of them to come out.
Yeah.
But they look cool every time, so I don't know.
Now, you have played a Monster Hunter game, and I'm very curious to hear your take on Monster Hunter Wilds.
I think this is technically the follow-up to Monster Hunter World, which was like more of a game that was on multiple platforms as opposed to being exclusive to a Nintendo console. So that was like their big moment where everybody had eyes on it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you had to have a DS, I think, to play it, which is not the ideal way to play it. I feel this is not the ideal way to play something like this.
Yeah, I think they probably had some on like Wii in that generation, but yeah, this is like sort of their big. It's going to be on PC and Xbox and PlayStation, and so it's going to be everywhere, and you can play it. But I don't know how much of it is, Monster Hunter World came out at like the right place, right time, and it just so happened to, get a big following online. And so I got kind of swept up in that, and that's why I was able to get into it with that one in particular, because I tried Monster Hunter Rise, which I think was the last one, and that one was on sort of exclusive to Nintendo. I think it's on PC now, and maybe the other platforms, but for a while it was exclusive to Nintendo. But that one didn't do anything for me for some reason.
Really?
I tried to play it and couldn't get into it for some reason. I don't know if it was just like that style of game wasn't the right thing at the right time the way the previous one was, but I did actually play a bunch of that. What was that? Not Monster Hunter, but it was a Monster Hunter like that came out last year.
Yes, I remember that. What was that called?
It's like Wild Heart or something like that. Wild Hearts.
Yeah, I don't remember. That sounds right. Actually,
they've like already shut it down or something like that.
Yeah.
I played a fair amount of that and did enjoy it, but I think it was in part because they had like streamlined it. I also played, what was that? There was like a free to play one that was a little bit more cartoonish. That I really can't remember. Dauntless maybe is what it was called. So I've like been able to get into these games off and on here and there when they do like a Monster Hunter style game. But I'll be curious to see how much they've sort of, streamlined and made this like more friendly to people just trying to get back into it, because it's such a hill to climb to get into these games.
That's that's why I never really got into it. I was very daunting. There's like so many systems and things you have to be aware of.
It can be very, very obtuse. But here's the thing, like, generally speaking, every Monster Hunter fan will tell you it's difficult to get into, but once you like climb that hill, if you're able to do it, it's like very satisfying and very fun, and it becomes like your favorite thing and you just want to keep playing it. And so I get it, like they have like a bunch of different monsters to fight, and you have so many different weapons to learn to use and sort of try to perfect your ability with them. And then you take out the monster, you use the parts to build new weapons and new armor, and then you take on sort of ever escalating, difficulty monsters as you go. And it's just like a fun sort of co-op experience that you can play with randoms online or with friends. And so I get the whole, I get the idea behind it. I get how it works. It just sort of, sometimes I'm in the mood for that and sometimes I'm not, I think is maybe what it comes down to. And the last one just didn't hit at the right time for me. So I guess we'll see. Did they say when this is coming out? I don't remember.
I don't think there was a release date, no.
They just sort of showed off some gameplay and some new monsters.
It seems like mounted combat is a big thing in this one, which I don't know if it was previously a thing in the last one.
They added that in Rise because there was like a mount you could get and you could ride around. I feel like that was new to Rise, but I could be wrong. I don't have a lot of like history with it. I know it was not in Monster Hunter World, if I recall correctly. But so I do think this is like sort of the evolution of like what they did with Monster Hunter World with some stuff from Monster Hunter Rise, but now they're sort of continuing along that path. So I think it looks cool though. And it is like one of those games where as you learn and get better with the different weapons and you're able to pull off the different attacks, it becomes very, very satisfying. So I get the formula here. I just sometimes they don't hit at the right time for me. So I guess we'll find out. But
we'll find out when it releases.
Yeah. I was, however, very interested in the next thing. I had heard that they were going to have Team Asobi's next game, and I was keeping my fingers crossed that it would be a full Astro Bot game, and that's exactly what it ended up being.
This looks great, I have to say. I loved this trailer, and I played. So my brother has a PlayStation 5, and I played a good amount of that first Astro Bot game when I visited him last year, and I loved it. I loved every second of it, and this looks like it's going to be even better.
Yeah, so every PS5 owner has the ability to download that Astro's Playroom game, which is like a short, sort of concise thing that's more or less a tech demo for the controller, but it's like kind of also a full-on just like short game to play as well.
Very fun. Very just like a curated adventure through PlayStation's past. Like, you would turn the corner and you would see like Aloy as a little Astro Bot person. And in this one, I was very happy to see like Shadow of the Colossus as someone you could see, or the little guy from Shadow of the Colossus. I loved this. The music was great. It looks like it's going to be like so many types of interesting platform things. It looks great.
Yeah, so they're basically doing that, but like a full game, which I think everybody who played Astro's Playroom wanted them to do, and thankfully they are doing it. And so this is like basically Sony's Mario now, and they just need to like keep churning these out. But so pre-orders open on June 7th, and it'll be out September 6th this year. The PlayStation blog was talking about how it has 6 galaxies spanning over 80 levels.
Wow.
And so it seems like it's going to be a good-sized game. And yeah, it's keeping that sort of element of it's basically taking place in a PlayStation 5 and going through the different history of, you know, PlayStation characters and consoles and stuff like that. It seems like that element is carrying over for this game as well, because there's like so many different cameos of like Astro Bot versions of like Kratos and Nathan Drake and all these different Sony exclusive characters. So I am very, very interested in this. We'll definitely be playing that when it comes out later this fall.
Well, and that was pretty much it for that press conference. But this is our special pre-fake E3 show. So do you have any predictions for next week? We were talking about, my main prediction is I'm pretty confident we're going to get some Silksong news because, I mean, we thought it was going to be released within a year of the last one, and then it wasn't. And then, or no, that was 2 years. Was that 2 years ago? No, like radio silence, basically. But as we talked about on the podcast a couple months ago, it's been rated in a bunch of different countries. So when you rate something with the ESRB, you basically can't add anything to it after that because then they would have to re-rate it. So I think it's likely that we will get a release date. And it could be something where it releases day of. I don't know if that would be the case. I would think that they would want to do a special edition of it that you could pre-order. But my main thing is I don't know if it's going to be at Keighley's thing or the Microsoft thing, because they kind of burned Microsoft when they were like, Microsoft was like, all games on this showcase will be available within a year of it releasing. And Silksong was one of those things. And someone asked on Twitter even, like, does that mean Silksong is releasing before, June of next year? And someone, whoever runs the Xbox Twitter account was like, yeah, that's what it means. And that did not happen. So Team Cherry was not able to do that. And so I wonder if that means they have to give the exclusive reveal to Microsoft, or if they're just like, sorry, Microsoft, no strings attached, and they're going to give it to Keighley. Because I know Keighley probably really wants it too. But I think at one of these two, and I think it's more likely to be at Microsoft maybe. I actually don't know. But that's my main prediction is Silksong will have a release date as of next week.
Yeah, and I think that really is like the big like question mark, because I feel like we know a lot of stuff that's coming, and so maybe we're just going to see more of what we're expecting, because we already know that there's going to be a Call of Duty, so we're going to see that at its own showcase. And I'm thinking of like what Sony's got, which I don't know what they've got, I guess. But I'm not expecting anything big, because didn't they say no big exclusives until like next year?
I think. Oh, here's something I heard. I heard that the Rabbids are coming to X Defiant.
Oh, real? Oh, I forgot that game came out.
Yeah, it came out, I guess.
I don't know. I maybe should just like look up a review and see if I can watch some gameplay of that and see what it's all about, because
I should do that too. Yeah,
unclear, but they probably have some stuff on the Final Shape. But isn't that coming out like very, very soon?
Imminently. Yeah, it might come out this week actually.
I
don't know. I really don't know how many surprises Keighley could have for us.
I guess they could have some Death Stranding 2 stuff. And
yeah, I mean, he could have some Kojima stuff for sure. He could have whatever that weird other Kojima game was, where that's just like people screaming in a dark room.
Yeah.
What else could happen?
They've got Marvel's Wolverine. Maybe we see some gameplay on that.
Yeah. Something that has never come up again is that Perfect Dark game they revealed years and years ago. That could be at Microsoft's thing.
Yeah. We know what's coming from Ubisoft because they showed Assassin's Creed already.
Yeah. Might get some more gameplay of that.
What do you think Nintendo would have?
That is a great question because, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, Switch 2 has been announced. They've said, well, the announcement has been announced. They've said they're going to announce the Switch 2 this fiscal year, which ends in like March of next year. So we don't know when it's going to happen, but they will eventually talk about the Switch 2. So I don't know what else they could release for Switch. I mean, what they could do is in more remasters, I think. So like Thousand Year Door, I think just came out. I think that's been well regarded. They could do more stuff. I mean, it's crazy to me. We never got a release of what's that cel-shaded Zelda game? I always forget the name of.
Wind Waker.
Yeah, we never got a Wind Waker release on Switch, which is wild to me. We also never got. We got the Mario All-Stars, but we never got Galaxy 2 on Switch. So, like, if they don't want to spend a bunch of time making new content for this console that's going away pretty shortly, they could just put it into remasters of old games, and I think that would do fine. But
yeah,
I mean, they have a bunch of indie games.
They've kind of been in that mode for a little while. I know in late June they've got Luigi's Mansion 2 coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they just had like a few of those to drop this fall, that would sort of tide people over, I guess, until the next console could come out. But yeah, I don't know if they would, because they probably don't want to release anything new, like new. So
unless it's going to be backwards compatible, unless like Switch 2 can use the same cartridges as the Switch, but we don't. I mean, that's never been the case before with Nintendo. So
yeah. I feel like if they had like a new Mario, like Mario Odyssey 2, they would just be holding it as a launch title for the next console. So
that would be the ultimate launch title. Mario Odyssey 2 or Mario Odyssey is like maybe my favorite Switch game, I have to say.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for me. Hard to deny that game is great and very fun to go back to.
Obviously Breath of the Wild is one of the greatest games ever made, to me at least. But it doesn't have the replayability or just like the fun of Mario Odyssey, where you're just like, especially if you start a new game in Mario Odyssey and you jump back in, there's so much stuff you can just like run towards and do. It's so good.
Yeah, and then so from Bethesda, we know that like not Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones game is coming, and we might see. I doubt it, but maybe some sort of teaser for the next Elder Scrolls.
I don't know. I mean, I saw, maybe did we talk about it on the podcast, or maybe I just read this in an article, but I feel like
they regret having announced that as early as they did.
Well, I was going to talk about Fallout, because like there's of this like Fallout stuff where like the game or the movie or the show made everyone go back to Fallout 4 and Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. And I saw someone asked Todd Howard about that. And he's like, yeah, I've never seen anything like this. Like it's like a 4 times uptick in people playing this like super old game, Fallout 3, things like that. It's wild. And I feel like there are probably executives like above Bethesda who now are like, giving them ultimatums like, hey, what's going on? Like, how come we don't have a new Fallout in development? Like, the roadmap is now Elder Scrolls. No one's heard of Elder Scrolls because they're dumb executives. So I don't know. I wonder if they would try to scramble and be like, Elder Scrolls is coming, but they really previewed that new Elder Scrolls super early. So I wonder if they would really preview a Fallout game super early. If they were like, hey, here's some Elder Scroll news, but here's what we're working on after that. and then instead of just like a Starfield, like a one shot of like a satellite or whatever, it's like a, I don't know, just like a dirty road or something. I don't know how you tease Fallout, but
yeah, I mean,
I bet I could see us getting some sort of weird Fallout news, even though they don't really have anything in the pipeline.
I mean, they could do. People have wanted like ports of Fallout 3 and New Vegas on Switch for a long time, so they could, if they could get Skyrim running on a Switch, I feel like they could get those games running on a Switch. But so that would be one way to capitalize on it. But they could also, like, if they just wanted to do a full-on remaster, remake type of situation for those for modern consoles, that would be a way to capitalize on it.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Will there be a weird celebrity guest at the Summer Games Fest showcase? 100%
chance that somebody, they don't even have to be connected in any way to the games industry. They don't have to be in a game. Keeley will find somebody to be like, hey, check this guy out. He's gonna talk.
He's just gonna wander around for a while.
Yeah, he's gonna be here and talk for a little while.
We didn't talk about this on the podcast because it's not really games related. But did you? Al Pacino was he at the Game Awards last year?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was Game Awards. Yeah, because he gave the award to what's his name?
Teal'c.
Yeah, Teal'c.
Did you see him announcing the Oscars?
No.
He had the award for Best Picture. You should look this up on YouTube. Because he like had the envelope for Best Picture, and then he, just like at the Game Awards, he just like rambled for a while, and then he opened it up, and you're supposed to say, and the winner is, but he just sort of looked at it and was like, well, I'm looking at this, and my eyes see whatever won Best Picture. And that was his way, I guess, of announcing it. And then they kind of like sat on him for a while on the camera, and he kind of looked around, and then he started talking again, but then he got cut off, and it just cut to the Best Picture winners standing up and going, I guess, with Oppenheimer. But it's wild to see him do that. He's just a weird guy that just likes to announce stuff, I guess.
Just like partially lost it, but he's still like a famous face, and so they keep putting him on stage,
I guess. I'll be interested to see. I think you're right. I think there is going to be a weird celebrity cameo, which I will probably mute because I don't like that stuff. But it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be a great time. Next weekend, we'll have a bunch. I don't know we haven't talked about how we're going to do recordings, but
yeah,
I would imagine we might do multiple shows next week. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes.
Well, and here's another possibility that Bethesda could have. There was that leaked, sort of rumored Oblivion remaster / remake. So what if that ends up being shown off and that gets like a fall release?
That is interesting to me. I have a lot of nostalgia for Oblivion, and I would be very interested to see what they changed and like what type of remaster it would be. Because if it's just new graphics, I don't know if that would pull me back in. But if they were like, we've revamped the inventory system so it's not awful, and a bunch of other stuff has changed, that might get me to dive back in.
But
I'd be very curious. And if it was on Game Pass.
We kept all the silly bugs, so you still have Oblivion clips, but it looks much nicer.
Yeah. I'm interested in that. I think Bethesda is primed. I mean, obviously we're going to get some Doom, but I would be very interested to see what else they've got in the pipeline. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, I'm excited for it for sure. I almost don't want to know or speculate too much. I just want to let it happen and let the surprises, wash over me, and we'll find out what's going to happen.
What have you been playing and watching, Zach?
I have finally finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was within the last 2 or 3 chapters, and over the last 2 or 3 weeks since we last recorded, I just made a push to finally finish it off, and it was great. I don't know. It is a game of high highs and low lows for me, where character wise, story wise, universe wise, music wise, all of that is game of the year level type stuff for me. But there was like a lot of gameplay elements that I didn't love that kind of dragged it down for me. Like we talked multiple weeks about this for the podcast, and I always felt like I was coming down hard on it because there were it was right after I'd had like a really frustrating, section of gameplay or combat or something like that. And I had moments where I was like into the combat and fine with it, and I had moments where it just like really frustrated me. But I started listening back to some of the MinMax Deepest Dive episodes, and I was glad to find it wasn't just me. I wasn't going crazy thinking, oh, everybody thinks this is game of the year, best game ever made, perfect gameplay. And I was just like the one person who couldn't seem to vibe with it for some reason.
Yeah.
It wasn't just me, thankfully. Some of those open zones were obtusely designed, and some of the activities were repetitive and not super fun to play even the first time, let alone having to do it over and over and over again. And the Kate Sith, touchpad box throwing stuff was awful and didn't enjoy any of that. But I also, listening back to them talking about like some of the combat stuff, very clearly it's like much deeper than I even realized, and you can do so much more with it if you're actually deep diving into the different systems and leveling all this different stuff and trying out the different weapons and equipping different stuff and trying to find like the best possible builds and stuff. And so that's cool that that's a possibility. I didn't get super into it. It's kind of like with that Queen's Blood minigame that's in the game. I found that fun enough, but I'm not really like a deck building type of person. So like for me, it was like every now and then I might swap out a card, but I'm not going to like try to find the best possible deck and do like weird, crazy mechanics. And I was able to more or less muddle through all of the Queen's Blood games and get through it with whatever just sort of hodgepodge deck I had. And that's more or less how I got through the combat as well. But there was like weird, frustrating stuff. Like there's this like mini boss fight you have to do in like one of the latter chapters where it's not about killing the enemy. It's about staggering them to get them to like fall into something and knock it over.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Like the stagger mechanic is like you have to pressure them to build up the stagger meter, and to pressure them you have to like hit them with like an elemental attack that they're weak to. And I feel like I tried that over and over again and could not seem to build up enough stagger before killing the enemy. And I found that like really frustrating. Like there was no reason I should have had to do that like 10 times to get through it, because you would kill the enemy before you built up enough pressure to stagger them. And I had to look it up, and found out again, everybody in the comments was like me, very frustrated by this. Like,
why isn't this working?
Yeah, why would you design it this way? This is stupid. And the fix is, you need one specific weapon ability that I didn't use because I wasn't using that weapon, and that makes staggering enemies so much easier. So go equip that weapon and try it again and use that ability. And it's just like, okay, well, so I guess I learned something, but also it was annoying and frustrating to have to do that over and over again. And without talking about like the final boss fight, I found the final boss fight very frustrating as well, because they just had like really cheap mechanics where like undodgeable, unblockable abilities that lower your health to 1, and like just random stuff like that just like were really frustrating. But also then you get through that and you see like the last cutscene and like the music and the characters and everything that's going on, just like you get to the end of that and it's so like sentimental to you because you've spent so much time with these characters and everything, that you just go, oh yeah, that game was great. And so it's just like, I don't know, did I love it? Did I hate it? Yes, in equal parts, all the way through. Loved it, but also at times hated it. But
interesting. So is it going to be in your top 5 of this year, do you think?
That it's going to be tough for me to figure out where it belongs, because like I said, story and character-wise, the music, all of that, I'm super high on, such that it's like way up there for me. But like gameplay frustration and like repetitive open world stuff, like that got on my nerves in a big way, such that I was like at times like screaming at my TV out of frustration with this game. And like I feel like that can't be the game that ends up my game of the year if it's that annoying and frustrating to me at times. And so yeah, I'm torn on it, on where it belongs. For me, it does not like exceed Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. That game I still have higher, because I think that game hit on all fronts, whereas Final Fantasy VII Rebirth really got on my nerves at different points. So I think I would have it beneath that, but I guess we'll find out. I have more thinking to do on it. I definitely need to look up like story and lore explainers and stuff like that, because the ending I think is interesting. It's less like insane than Remake, such that I feel like I didn't feel 1000% lost the way I did at the end of that game. But also I definitely need some stuff explained to me, because there's stuff I don't understand. But part of that,
someday I am gonna play it and I will be able to explain it to you. But good. I cannot play it right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, part of that is because I didn't play original Final Fantasy VII, so some of that is confusion with that, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm just gonna look up a lot of stuff and be listening to that. So I guess maybe we'll talk more about it later, especially if you ever get a chance to play it.
I will eventually play it. I just don't know. Eventually it's going to come to PC. So I'll, if I don't play it, if I don't get a PS5 before that, I'll definitely play it on PC.
Yeah. So anything you've been playing, watching?
I resubbed to Game Pass in preparation for the season, because I assume we're going to get a lot of stuff, at least from Microsoft, but maybe at the Games Fest, Summer Games Fest as well, where they're going to be like, this is available now on on Game Pass. But because of that, I played through that Little Kitty Big City game.
Oh yeah.
Which was a delight. I loved it. I think it only took me like 2 or 3 hours to play through. I didn't collect everything. I might still go back and do some more collecting. I will say the one criticism I heard of that game was correct. The jumping is not super precise, which is not great, especially when you're climbing. They sort of have a mechanic where if you hold the jump button, you can see sort of a ghost of where you're going to land, but that's not always accurate. So that made some stuff a little frustrating, but a very cute little game. And then I also picked back up my save of Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which I'm really enjoying. I forget why I bounced off of that game. I think maybe something else came out, but I was like in the middle. Maybe I got to a boss that I was like having trouble with, but after picking it back up, I've played through like 3 or 4 different bosses, and I'm loving it. It's getting me hyped for my ability to play Silksong.
Nice. Yeah, I played that earlier this year and loved it as well. So
excited for that type of game to get more people coming out for it. So, but yeah, that's all I've been playing, really.
Well, I guess on that note, do you have any parting wisdom?
I have linked it in the show notes. We don't have to watch it right now, but I did find that clip of Al Pacino announcing Oppenheimer's award, and I think everyone should go out and watch it. Just search for like Al Pacino Oscars, and it's going to be probably the first thing that pops up. It's wild to see.
Well, on that note, go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Starside Cafe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.